Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to give a lecture. Today is a very special, maybe some international conference. But anyway, I'm glad to meet you, everybody. I know that about 20 trainees from 14 countries. Some countries I'm very familiar with. I think originally I'm planning to visit next month in Azerbaijan. Who's the student? Your name is Mahir. Okay. Wow. But unfortunately, the meeting is delayed next year. But anyway, several years ago, 2015, I visited Baku. And I'm very familiar with Azerbaijan. But anyway, most of the students, Professor Shin told me in the lunch hour, most of the students are very competitive, also very excellent students from very competitive basis. I think everybody has a very good chance to learn agricultural economics or some rural development or other area. Today's my lecture focused on rural development. Have you heard about inclusive rural development? Anybody knows about inclusive rural development? No, anyway. Usually agricultural economic departments more focused on economic aspect. However, in inclusive rural development, there's some mixing for the economic aspect or economic aspect or some social aspect and political aspect. So anyway, this is a new concept, also very important to your country. Most of the participants is from developing member countries. I think 14 countries. I think your country also very important in agricultural area or rural area. Some part I'll discuss about your country case. However, my today's lecture focus in Korean perspective. I'll introduce Korean rural development aspect. I don't know exactly. In your class, is there some rural development class in here? No. Okay. That's great. Okay. Before the start, allow me to introduce myself first. I got a PhD from Oklahoma State University in 1997. Originally, my specialty area is environment economics, environment and resource economics. So, but anyway, my background is agricultural economics. So, I think some students is more concerned about agriculture or environment and rural environment and resource economics. But anyway, I'm an agricultural economist. I think your specialty in this course also agricultural economic master course. Also, I'm working with the OECD Committee on Agricultural Environment, Joint Working Party. I involved in this committee about 17 years. Before, during 1914 to 1917, 4 years, I'm a chair of the Joint Working Party on Agriculture and Environment in OECD. I'm a lot of work in this working party. Also, I'm former president of Korea Agricultural Economic Association in 2018. Also, I worked in Korea. I worked at Korea Rural Economic Institute about 31 years, including my foreign study about 5.5 years in the United States, and totally 31 years and 2 months in Korea Rural Economic Institute. Somebody, have you heard about the Korea Rural Economic Institute? Okay, good. That's the government, semi-government institute. Anyway, government-funded research institute established in 1978. Also, I'm president of Korea Rural Economics, 3 years and 2 months. After then, invited professor and distinguished professor in Seoul National University, Department of Agricultural, Economic, and Rural Affairs. Currently, I'm a presidential committee, subcommittee chair in rural development on agricultural, fisheries, and rural policy. Just start last February. Currently, I'm a visiting scholar, also visiting scholar of Seoul National University Asia Center. Asia Center, I work at some developing some human resource development in developing member country, especially for the Asian country, Bangladesh, in the future Philippines and India. This is my introduction. I think nobody in this class rural development. However, after this class, the trainee will be able to learn about, understand something. The first one is understand the meaning of agriculture and rural. I don't know. Different country, different definition, usually in rural. I'll discuss on that part. I will think about each country, how to define the rural. I think in African country, Asian country, or Central Asian country, different country are different meaning or different perspective in rural area or rural. And then understanding background and meaning of inclusive rural development. I'll discuss about some inclusive meaning or inclusive rural development. After this course, return to your country, you emphasize for the inclusive rural development is very important to develop it in your country, in your country's rural development. And then some learn about how to enhance inclusive rural development, especially for I explain some Korean aspect, Korean case, and then apply in your country. Also learn about the methods to facilitating inclusive rural development. There are a lot of approach, and then I'll discuss about, if time is available, I'll share with some video for some digital agriculture in Korean case, 6 minutes. Maybe last part of this lecture, I'll share some video for the digital agriculture in Korea. Finally, is very important. Maybe conclusion and wrapping up, I suggest for the approach, the thinking outside of the box for the innovation. I think in every country, important to innovation or innovative approach to develop agriculture and rural development. I think in your, maybe most of our training from government officer or some research, or some student teacher, or some technician or technical officer, maybe some head of a director or something. But anyway, everybody's position important to innovation for their in your section or in your ministry or in your country. I emphasize this part in concluding remark in my lecture. Today's lecture is a second four part, but anyway, the meaning of agriculture and rural is a basic concept in my lecture. An overview of inclusive rural development. There's meaning, definition about some inclusive rural development. What's the inclusive development? Or some other related area, or rural development, or inclusive development, or integrated rural development, rural transformation, that kind of things. I'll show that. And then facilitating inclusive rural development, finally, concluding remarks. The fourth part. But anyway, first part, and each hour will be 50 minutes, and then 10 minutes break, short break, and then we'll continue. If time is available, we'll discuss about some part. Agriculture. I think most of training is related to agricultural area. I think it's most of training understand what's the meaning of agriculture. Agriculture is the practice of cultivating the plant and livestock used for using land to obtain food product, and then fiber, including fiber also, I think. Maybe some country, fiber is very important, right? Okay. But anyway, agriculture, original meaning is agriculture and culture. Agriculture means the soil and field. And then culture is cultivation. That's agriculture is based on the soil and cultivate the plant or some animal. Other industry. What's the agriculture? I think it's originally 1960 sometime. Colin Clark divide agriculture is a primary industry or some low material production industry kind of things. And then that's what we call the primary industry. Some people say this one is agriculture is the first industry. Everybody knows about that, right? Okay. Unlike industry, other industry, some second or tertiary industry, agriculture based on the development of natural vitality. That means is based on the life or microorganism or some animal or some plant. Most of it is a kind of vitality of organic life. So agriculture, very important thing is natural vitality of some organic life, very important one. And then some dominating of natural environment factors, such as temperature is a basic things, and then precipitation, and then sunlight, because of agriculture is based on the solar energy, and then transport the other energy sources. Crop production dominates production of area of land. We mean some land productivity or land factor productivity, we call that. And then producing energy, conversion to solar energy into some chemical energy. So agriculture is some carbohydrate, protein, and fat, and then provide for the energy material for the human beings. So this is very important in agriculture basic concept. Everybody knows about this one. Maybe your high school or some middle school also some basic knowledge of agriculture. However, in agricultural scope, I think different countries have different perspective. I think it's in agriculture encompass and crop and horticulture and livestock, forestry, and some countries sericulture. Maybe, I don't know, there's some sericulture, some countries very important, right? How about Azerbaijan? Sericulture is important? Silk, right, right. Which country? Oh, Vietnam, okay. Your name is Ngon?
Tan.
Or Vietnam is Tan, yeah, you're Tan.
And I also do my thesis about sericulture.
Okay, good. Sericulture including agriculture or not?
Including planting and raising the worm.
Okay. I think in Vietnam, very important in the sericulture, right? And a long time ago in Korea is very important, but this time, in recently, Korea is very small. very small in this area, sericulture, in very specific region. But anyway, this time is the source of some bio-industry. I think it's a different approach this time. But anyway, the scope of agriculture extends some agricultural industry. That means production, originally production, anyway, it's manufacturing or processing and service also. Agricultural material, there are, I think it's a material is front industry and the secondary industry altogether. So this one is a crop. Originally agriculture is intrinsically in crop and especially for the very stable food, in Korean case, rice and barley, maybe some potato, and then some soybean, other. It's a basic crop, is based on the agriculture. And then extend the horticulture, livestock and forestry, also mention about some agriculture. And recently, agriculture is some value chain concept, redistribution, kind of some marketing or some processing or material, some pesticide and fertilizer, machinery, and etc. So agriculture is a very broad concept based on value chain. That means production to consumption is a value chain, is all together. We call some agriculture. I think some countries focused on production stage. How about in Africa? It's Nigeria. Your country's agriculture usually focused on some production area, I think. How about some Vietnam? How about Indonesia? Yes. Expand the other area or expand, right? Right. In a long time ago, Korea also 1980 or 1970, agriculture means focused on production area, but this time it's a value chain concept, some marketing or processing or consumption altogether, we call some agriculture. Have you heard about the sixth industry? Good. In this class? Okay, that's great. Originally, I mentioned about in Colin class. Colin Clark is some economist. He's I couldn't remember exactly. His title is Progress of. I couldn't remember exactly the title of his book, but anyway, he applied for the progress of economic development. Classified the industrial structure, industry. The primary industry, the first industry is agriculture, and second industry, or we call some manufacturing industry. The third one is a service industry. So anyway, sixth industry means some, I think in Japanese scholar, originally he's honorary professor in University of Tokyo, I think. Tokyo University is 1994 or 1995. The professor's name Imamura. He suggests, in order to solve the agriculture and rural problem, he suggests the sixth industry. Right. Sixth industry means some agricultural, some productivity that creates new value added by linking agriculture is a primary industry, the first industry, and then some production manufacturing means some secondary industry, and tertiary industry some service, including some tourism or some other based on the all tangible or intangible resources that in rural areas. So sixth industry means one multiply second industry, multiply third industry. One multiply 2 by 3 equal to 6. 1 plus 2 plus 3 is also 6. He suggests a kind of convergence industry. Agricultural convergence industry, we mean some sixth industry. But this is not academic definition. In recently, there are a lot of research there. We call some sixth industrialization, we call that. But anyway, sixth industry, suggested by Japan scholar, and Japan also used that term. I don't know which country used the sixth industry. Is it Vietnam also? Vietnam. How about Indonesia? Is used that sixth industry? Wow. How about Azerbaijan? No. Have you heard about the sixth industry in your country? No. How about Ghana? No. Okay. I think maybe Indonesia already. How about Nepal? You use that sixth industry? Okay, just to start. I think, to my knowledge, in Korea, it's about 2014. I think at the time, President Park Geun-hye, his government used that some sixth industry is a major policy in agricultural policy at that time. Maybe some 8 years ago, 9 years ago, Korea used at this term to develop rural area. I think a different country also in Japan is a long time ago, 20 or 30 years ago, applied the 1994, and then maybe expand other country. Maybe China also very similar approach. Right, I'll discuss about everybody some rural. I don't know. Different country or different definition about some rural. I think in rural or rural area is a multifaceted concept. There is no universal agreement and very vague and arbitrary. Rural is defined by some living or characteristic of farming or country life, any population or housing or territory, not in urban. Usually urban, some countries urban and rural. Some countries urban, non-urban. But anyway, there are some different concepts of rural over urban and some counterparts. And the rural area, usually based on the agriculture, is the main industry. And then some forestry or some fishery, including in this one, non-urbanized area, we call some rural area. Definition of rural as by country. I think different country, different definition. I think urban is very, maybe some very clear concept, but rural is a different concept. I'll discuss about. But anyway, I suggest in Korea first. Korea case, the population density, the number of population is very important to define some agricultural boundary or urban boundary. Some country, rural and urban border population, Denmark, Argentina, 2,000, India is 5,000, Japan is 5,000, and China is a big country, is 100,000, etc. In Korean case, based on some definition of rural area in Korea, the Article 3, the Act Framework Act on Agricultural Rural Community and Rural Industry defined, the rural area means are determined as town, very small town. We call Korean say up, and village, myeon, is a purely Korean word. Myeon, means towns, and village is myeon. defined Myeon, including Up and Myeon is a rural area. So other area defined, notify the Minister of Agriculture and Food and Rural Affairs in consideration agriculture, industry, and population. I don't know that some other country, maybe some, or how about Tanzania? Who's Tanzania? Upendo. How about in your country? How to define some rural area? What's the proportion about? Just to give me a ballpark is okay.
It's about 15,000.
Okay. How to? Not exactly. Can you remember how to about define the rural area?
Most rural areas is where there is no infrastructure like urban areas, and the distribution of social services is not available in urban areas.
Okay.
Even the population is not like in urban areas, there is few population.
What's the proportion about in the rural area in your country?
About 15,000.
50,000. I mean, 50,000? You mean the population?
It is different from a certain rural area and other areas. Yes, it's not exactly.
I mean about what's the population portion in rural area in your country? More than 50%. Percentage, I mean. I don't know exactly, okay. How about Philippines? Emiliano. How about in your country? What's the rural? Do you know any define about rural? Okay. And then proportion about population in your country.
I think in the Philippines, rural area are mostly in the countryside.
Okay.
These are where plantation or farmlands is visible or you can be located. So the population in the rural areas, mostly rural areas, farmers live there. The total farmers in the Philippines, I think it's 12.9 million.
What's the proportion, percentage?
12%. Because
12, just 12.
Because
Approximately 12.
Approximately 12%.
Okay.
Because currently the population in the Philippines is 100 million.
Okay. How about Ghana and David? Who's David? Who's David? Oh, David is in front of that. Good.
Yes. So, regards to the rural population, the distinction is based on the infrastructure. So,
Infrastructure.
Yeah.
Okay. Not population density, right?
Yes, population density, that one to account. But normally, it's about the infrastructure. Unlike the urban areas, the rural sector don't have much of facilities.
Okay.
Most of the agricultural activities are relegated to the rural areas. So, most when you come to Ghana, where there's predominantly agricultural activity, it's referred to as well the rural area.
What was the proportion about the rural population? Just to give me a ballpark.
Rural population in Ghana. Yeah, statistical people.
Ghana.
Oh, Ghana, good.
Of the 100%, we have 68%.
60? Wow, very clear. Wow. Right. It's a different country, I think, a different define, different proportion. Very interesting. Ghana is a 68. How about Bolivia? Is Madeline? Okay, please. Just okay. If it,
I think it's around 30%.
Just 30%. Oh, how to define this rural area in your country?
Yeah, the people who is working in the countryside too, like in farming areas.
Okay.
Production.
Agriculture production area. Okay, all right. And then Kyrgyzstan with Zakinai. Okay, good. Okay.
Thank you. So, I think we divided our country by administrative decision because our government is the main who have control and function to divide the like urban and rural areas in my country. So I think maybe it's 40% of rural area.
40.
40, yeah.
Okay.
40 and 60 is urban. Yes.
Okay, good. 40% in Kyrgyzstan. And then Ghana is also. How about Nigeria? Ogiki. Wow, Nigeria, right.
Thank you, Dr.
Good.
Kim. Yeah, like my colleague from Ghana has said, most of the distinction is the rural area are characterized with aged people and lack of infrastructure.
Okay, infrastructure.
Yeah, but according to statistics, the rural population is about 100 million out of the 218.5 million population in Nigeria.
Oh.
And the percentage is around 47.85% of the rural population.
Oh, it's about, how's the proportion about that?
47.85.
47.85. 0.85.
Yes, 47.
48.
Yes.
Wow. What is very clear. Wow, you're good statistic knowledge about that. Wow. It's a recent statistic, right? 47. Very interesting. And then how about Vietnam? Vietnam is Ungan.
Hello, Professor. Nice to meet you. The population in Vietnam over 60 million. The people live in rural area account 65%.
65%?
Yes.
Whoa, 65%. Good. In Vietnam, I think everybody is just remember which country different criteria. Maybe some country infrastructure, some countries population, but some countries, I think in the Philippines, just 12% is quite low. But anyway, some countries 65%, especially for some Vietnam. How about Uzbekistan?
Hello.
Teacher, your name is Lano?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Hello, Professor. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm from Uzbekistan. Our population is about 38 million.
Mm-hmm.
And in rural areas, population is about 60%.
60%?
Yes.
Okay. 60%. Good. Sorry. And then some Vietnamese already. And then Laos and Bilasak. How do I address your name? Very difficult.
Yeah. Hello, Professor. Nice to meet you. My name is Bilaisak.
Bilaisak.
Yes,
okay.
Bilaisak. Our country has around 7 million.
Okay.
Just only 7 million.
In rural population?
No, in whole country.
Whole country, 7 million.
But I don't know exactly how the proportion of the rural area, maybe around 65%.
65?
Yeah, around.
Okay.
But what we define the rural area is lacking of the infrastructure.
Infrastructure?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Just on base that. And the career of the people who living in rural area is based on agriculture.
Mm-hmm,
yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I've never been to Laos, but then Laos also very important in agriculture, so 65%. Good. How about some Mozambique, Nigeria? Oh, Mozambique, it's in front of them. Oh.
Good afternoon, Professor. Thank you. So in Mozambique, rural area is also characterized by the prevalence of agricultural production and also lack of social services and infrastructures.
Okay, infrastructure, very important.
And our population is about 32 million, and from that, about 63% live in rural area. Yes.
Good. 62%, right. And then some, out in Nepal. Taya?
Good afternoon, Dr. Kim. Yes, in our case also, in Nepal also, the rural area, it means the village area. where the
Very similar in
farming,
Korea.
where the farming and the agricultural activities takes place. So that's the definition of rural. It's not based on the population density.
Okay.
But the overall the population living in rural area is quite high. It's more than 60%.
Or 60%.
Yeah. Yes.
Around the 60%, right?
Around 60%.
Around the 60%. Okay. 60%. And then some Rwanda. Uzingo. Okay.
Thank you, Professor. Rwanda is also a developing country, and most of population are in rural areas. I was checking in recent census 2022. The population in rural area is 72.1. Yeah, 72.1%.
72. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the population is the whole population is the 13 million. 13.2. And the rural area in Rwanda is characterized by lack of infrastructure. Also, they are living for only relying their day life on agriculture, and they are scattered in the area they are living. Thank you.
Good. How about in agriculture in GDP proportion in your economy? Just roughly. You are 72% in lived in rural area. Just a proportion in agriculture.
Yeah, I don't know where, but it's around.
Oh, just around.
Yeah, it's around 37.
37%. Wow.
Yes.
Wow, very interesting. Rwanda. Finally, Azerbaijan.
Good afternoon, Professor.
Thank you.
It's the percentage in rural area is give or take 47, but
47.
47, yeah. But I think you know that oil drives our economy, and people tend to work in rural areas rather than in urban areas rather than in rural areas. So that's impacts on that.
What's the criteria in rural and urban? Is it infrastructure or population density? How about in Azerbaijan?
Sorry, I didn't get.
What's the criteria between some urban and rural in your country?
It's a hard question, but
maybe infrastructure or some population density?
Yeah, because in the city, it's like everything is more convenient.
Okay.
And rather than in rural area.
Maybe some population also density.
Yeah, and there are actually many factors that affects on it. Yeah, it's a bit long story. Yeah.
But anyway, 14 country. Maybe some smallest proportion is Philippines, is a 12%. Okay. Okay.
Statement, sorry. Just saw it in the internet. So
okay, that's good.
The ratio of urban and rural area in the Philippines, the rural area is 54%. Sorry.
54?
54%.
Okay.
The 12 is the population of farmers in the Philippines. So the rural area is 54%.
Okay. Farmers 12%.
12%.
Okay, and then 54
is the ratio of it 54% rural and urban area in the Philippines.
Okay, that's good. Very correct. Very clear. But anyway, most of the country is more than 50%, and Bolivia 30%, and most of the country is more than 40%. The largest one is Rwanda, is about more than 70%, 70. Is that right? I think it's very good information. Everybody sharing this information. because every country different perspective in rural area. So most of the population lived in rural area. So rural area is very important. So inclusive rural or rural development is very important to develop in your country. That means, right. I emphasize that point. Very important information sharing or very good discussion about, in your country's case, rural criteria and then some proportion of rural population. Right. Some people, farmers' population is very low. However, a lot of population lived in rural area. Rural economy. I think most of students learn about some agricultural economics. So agricultural economy. In rural economy is very broad concept, right here. Rural economy usually characterized by some low productivity because of agricultural productivity is quite low. So low productivity or some underinvestment because efficiency is slightly lower than other industries. So underinvestment in agriculture and non-farm rural employment. Also lack of adequate infrastructure, also poor occupational safety, also health and working condition, and some limited or no access service. Maybe financial services also quite low in some urban area. However, in rural area, very strong potential about for the economic growth or employment creation or promotion of decent work if the policy is applied for maybe some inclusive rural development policy is very important. In that case, the agriculture or rural economy potential is quite high. Also, in rural economy is characterized by some great diversity, and then there are a lot of activity in there. So, in rural area, the residents, a lot of activity in not specifically agriculture or manufacturing or service industry and other industry also in rural residents is possible. So, the mixture of non-farm or off-farm or on-farm activity ranging from the smallholder agriculture and highly some sophisticated or modernized agriculture. So agricultural business also. So I think in rural economies quite a strong potential to develop some in your country or in your business also. So that's a very strong point in rural economy. Now, this time is how to define, is the main point, is inclusive rural development. Inclusive rural development. Before the inclusive rural development, there are background. Why do we need some inclusive rural development? Inclusive rural development is fundamentally defined for some traditional rural development, quite different concept, because of in the sense that some improvement in indicator like growth, some economic growth or income output are not sufficient for it. Their quality of life essentially includes some improvement of health aspect or some nutrition aspect or education or reduction in gender or income, other activity also. So how to comprehensively or integrated all kind of this concept, and then we call some inclusive rural development. Originally, inclusive rural development suggested by some IFAD. Who knows IFAD? IFAD. Have you heard about IFAD? What's the IFAD? International, right? Right. International Fund for Rural Development. That's an international organization based on, I think it's in Rome, I think. Right, right. I think so. IFAD suggests 2016. The report name is a Rural Development Report. They suggest some multi-facet, multi-dimensional concept, inclusive rural development. Inclusive development is a process in which there are 5 components. First one is rising agricultural productivity, is an economic aspect, right? A rising agricultural productivity. Maybe in order to increase the agricultural productivity, technology is the most important things. I think anyway, a productivity concept, increasing is a market surplus. Who knows that market surplus? An agricultural economist, I think most of you agricultural economists, what's the market surplus? Who's the best one? Is Ghana, Valentina? What's the market surplus mean? Have you heard about no? Okay. Okay, good. Anyway, was Philippine, Emiliano. What's the market surplus?
I think market surplus is an excess demand or supply in the market.
Market demand?
Surplus.
Market surplus. What's the meaning of market surplus?
Excess supply in the market.
Supply and demand?
Supply in the market.
Supply in the market, okay. Any other students? What's the? Good.
I think it's when the supply is more than the demand.
Supply and demand.
I think market surplus is the condition in which all the beneficiaries in the market are benefited from the activity.
Good. I think it's very close concept. But anyway, market surplus means kind of profit. Exactly. Understand? Market surplus means some production or some gross value and minus some cost. We call this one a very simple concept. Anyway, some market surplus. Some people use that some market, some profit or some the different terminology, but anyway, market surplus. That's the economic aspect. The third one is employment, expanding off-farm. On-farm, not this one is off-farm employment, other area, right? Some expanding off-farm employment opportunities. The third factor. The fourth one is a better access to service and infrastructure. I think most of country define some agriculture as some kind of infrastructure. The fourth term is infrastructure, better access to service. The fifth one is governance, kind of some social aspect, capacity to influence policy, all lead to rural livelihood and then inclusive growth. Right. Inclusive growth, I define later and basic define OECD exactly how to define the inclusive growth. But anyway, there are 5 components. IFAD suggests that economic, increasing agricultural productivity. Second one is rising agricultural productivity. The first one, or increasing some marketable surpluses. The third thing is expanding off-farm employment opportunities. The first one is better access to service and infrastructure. Finally, is a capacity to influence the policy only to rural livelihood and then some inclusive growth. But anyway, in this class, you have to remember these 5 components in inclusive growth. Right? This one. Very easily understand. I'll show you some pentagon graph. There are 5 components. I already mentioned about economic aspect is agricultural productivity or market surplus. We call it the economic aspect. And then capacity over influence policy or better access of this is a social dimension, political dimension. I think a different country, I think different factors. I'll show you some, this is my idea. Ideal country, for example, country 1 is well-balanced, the 5 components. Agricultural productivities, number 10 point is 10. It's a perfect score. There's a marketable surplus, off-farm employment, and service and infrastructure accessibility and policy-making influence. But anyway, very ideal. Maybe some country 2 is agricultural productivity is very high. However, is off-farm or some service and infra accessibility slightly low then. So I think a different country and different indicator. This is a kind of evaluation which countries the level of inclusive rural development. That's the idea. What's the define? The inclusive growth. Inclusive growth. OECD suggests this concept. In 2019-18, the report is opportunities for all, a framework for the policy action. What's the meaning of inclusive growth? Is defined economic growth. That is defined fairly across society and creates opportunity for all. Everybody remember or understanding this one concept. So inclusive growth, I think in Korean case, the previous government much concerned about some inclusive growth. It's more concerned some fairly or some balanced approach in economic actors. New approach, economics, aims to improving some living standard of share of benefits of prosperity or evenly across the social change. I think an inclusive growth is more concerned about some fairness more than efficiency, right? I think inclusive growth is everybody understand or remember some fairness or some balance. The OECD inclusive indicator organized some 4 categories, some equitable or some well-functioning the market, and equal opportunity, and then governance. This one is suggested for some inclusive growth in OECD perspective, definition of inclusive. Inclusive rural development is important in this concept. So anyway, our class, everybody understanding the 5 components of inclusive rural development. First one, agricultural productivity. Second one is marketable surplus. The third one, right, off-farm employment opportunities. And the fourth one is better access to service. Finally is governance. So everybody is very important, this concept. Right, in this one is some policy action for the inclusive growth, and OECD suggests in this concept is a kind of some sustainable. Who knows the sustainability? Have you heard about? Everybody knows about sustainable. What's the Philippines? What's the meaning of sustainability?
I think sustainability is looking for a long-term. It's looking for a long-term. It's not just short-term solution or short-term action. It should be long-term. That it can be performed even though there's no intervention. It can perform on its own. That's sustainable. I think in my definition of it.
It's perfect. Wow, excellent, excellent. What's the component about some sustainability? Do you know that? Who knows about? What's the component of sustainability? What's the Nigeria?
Part of sustainability is infrastructure.
Infrastructure?
Quality infrastructure.
Okay. Any other students? Or is the components about sustainability? Okay, environment. Oh, excellent. Oh, and other things? Just the environment? Or other things? Economy. Good. One more. Social. Wow, it's perfect. There are three components, right? Environment, economic, and social aspect. That's the sustainability. I think, wow, in this class, everybody, the students, is very excellent. But anyway, the sustainable and share equitability of economic aspect, the efficiency, right? Efficiency and responsive government, and support the business dynamic economic aspect, and invest the people, and then there are three: people and place and form. Usually in Netherlands, they say three pillars: people, planet, maybe profit. Some different country and different perspective, but anyway, OECD suggests the people and form and place. I think it's OECD concept for the inclusive growth. Maybe in this, just to show review in this part, and then we take some break. There is a lot of approach in rural development. International organization, International Fund for Rural Development suggests that this one is agricultural development. Very, very common. Very, very common. Everybody understands some rural agricultural development, very, very common terminology, improving quality of life. Important. I think economic development and agricultural development, most thing is improvement to quality of life. And then economic well-being, especially for the farmers. And then some herders, livestock farmers, right? And then some agricultural workers. Agricultural workers means they are including agricultural farmers or some agricultural service or agricultural marketing or other area, all including we call some agricultural workers. Also improving agricultural service, agricultural incentives, and some technology. So they show some picture for the agricultural development and rural development, some broad concept, and rural transformation. And then some inclusive rural transformation. We call some inclusive rural development, very similar concept. Finally, very broad things in the structural transformation. I think this suggests for the effort in Rural Development Report 2016. In this report show that, suggests for the inclusive rural development concept. I think everybody knows about agricultural development or economic development, very familiar terminology. However, inclusive rural development is not common. So, but anyway, I suggest in later part, some rural development, some structural information development, structural transformation, other things. Maybe 10 minutes break. Maybe we'll start 2:40. I thank you. I really appreciate your active participation, especially for the rural define or rural concept. I really appreciate that. I keep in mind some Rwanda is the best one, is 72%, and then Bolivia is 30%, quite low. But anyway, please take some break. 10 minutes break. Thank you.